everyone, and welcome to Turning Towards Life. This is Lizzie and this is Justin, and we're turning towards life once again in our weekly series of conversations. Today is an exciting day because we want to encourage you to go over to our website, which is turningtowards.life, because we have done some thinking and reflecting over these years and have long fantasized about gathering with you all in a live kind of way instead of this listening kind of way, and in addition to this listening kind of way, should I say. We're not going to stop the podcast or anything, but we do want to add something in, which is to meet together in a regular way. So from September, we are going to be able to gather live together, and we want to tell you about it. So we want you to go to turning towards life. What am I saying? Turning towards.life, which is our lovely website. And Justin has made a wonderful adjustment to it so that on the homepage, there's a place that you can click on the live event and find out more about it and receive details. And we are working towards designing our time together. It's going to be 3 hours on a UK evening, but also on a time zone that we hope works for the majority of all of you. And we would love you to join us. We're going to be doing this practice together, essentially, which means that everybody will have a chance to meet one another, reflect together, receive different sources together, and be in community. So we're really excited about that. So please go to the website and have a look, click on the buttons, and you'll receive something in your email about the deeper details of what it means very soon. We just wanted to let you know now so that you can put September in your diaries very loosely and know that something is coming. And we'll keep mentioning it as we go through each of the episodes as well to remind you. And now we are going to turn towards our normalness, which is our wonderful source this week chosen by Justin, and enter into this unhurried, wondering kind of reflective conversation. And by the way, thank you to everybody who's responded on email already to the announcement. We announced Turning Towards Life live event thing on our email list for those of you who subscribe weekly to getting this into your inboxes. And we got such sweet notes back telling us what Turning Towards Life means. We got a sense of where people are in the world, and we wanted to gauge people's interest on email as well. So if you've responded to that, thank you. And you can go to the website and actually sign up for that weekly email as well when you check out the details of the live event. And good morning, Justin, and thank you for doing all the things to make the event go live, Mr. Technological Excellence Man.
You're so welcome, Lizzie. Morning. Hello, everyone. It won't be morning for everyone when you listen by any chance, but it is for us. Sunday morning, the 23rd of March, 2025, when we're recording this. It's been thrilling to start to put this together, Lizzie, to be in conversation with you about what Turning Towards Life live might be, and then to do all of the behind the scenes technological stuff. So I want to say to all of you who are with us, there's a real call to action here. We would be so glad if you would sign up for the weekly email, because that's actually where one of the places to find out about these kind of things as they come along. And then, Lizzie, as you say on the website, there's a place you can register your interest for this. And I'm feeling both excited and joyful, but also really ambitious about this. You and I have been talking, and I think maybe in the coming weeks, we'll devote some time here to talking more about what we think this is going to be. But we've been talking about how many of us need community, the values of learning and studying together, the value of text as a way of awakening something in us, and the value of making community. I think it's going to be really, really extraordinary. And so I'm excited that we're laying plans, and we've got 6 months or so before it actually bursts into life in September. So there's time to come and find out more and register your interest. The other call to action I want to make before we even get going with our text for this week is to say that Thirdspace, the place from which all of this is born, we have our annual cohort of our professional coaching courses starting in June, and applications are open. And our 2-day, very brilliant foundations program online, so you can join from anywhere in the world. That is a way into that body of work that, Lizzie, you'll know is so expressed here in what we're doing. 19th and 20th of May. And you can head over to wearethirdspace.org to find out about that. And we've met so many people from Turning Towards Life who are listeners, and circles and circles of the community around this podcast have come and joined us on the professional coaching course and on Foundations. So you can head over there. And now, time for our source. So I want to thank Anthony Wilson. And Anthony, I think, listens sometimes or maybe often to this. And Anthony and I have sometimes been in correspondence. Anthony is a poet. And one of the things that he does is he edits books of poetry. He was the editor of a book called Life-Saving Poems. And on his website, going back years and years and years, he has a yearly compendium of the poems that have most touched people from Life-Saving Poems. And I've been reading through those, and this is one of those. It was a lovely way to find this. So this is a poem called Prayer. It's by Marie Howe, and thank you to Marie for writing extraordinary, challenging, invitational poetry. And I thought, Lizzie, to say this week that the sources are always available in the show notes of the podcast on YouTube and on our website and in the email. And if you can reach for the text, you might want to press pause and read it for yourself before you hear us read it, or you might want to reach for it so that you can read along with us. Because I was thinking, Lizzie, about how with a poem of the resonance of this, sometimes it's really helpful to have the whole thing available. There's hearing it, but there's also seeing how the whole piece links together forwards and backwards. So we can always see it, but I'm not sure that everyone who's listening with us always reaches for it. So just a reminder, you can do that. So this is Prayer by Marie Howe. Every day I want to speak with you, and every day something more important calls for my attention. The drugstore, the beauty products, the luggage I need to buy for the trip. Even now, I can hardly sit here among the falling piles of paper and clothing, the garbage trucks outside already screeching and banging. The mystics say you are as close as my own breath. Why do I flee from you? My days and nights pour through me like complaints and become a story I forgot to tell. Help me, even as I write these words. I'm planning to rise from the chair as soon as I finish this sentence.
Thank you, Justin. Prayer by Marie Howe. Every day I want to speak to you, and every day something more important calls for my attention. The drugstore, the beauty products, the luggage I need to buy for the trip. Even now I can hardly sit here among the failing piles of paper and the clothing, the garbage trucks outside already screeching and banging. The mystics say you are as close as my own breath. Why do I flee from you? My days and nights pour through me like complaints and become a story I forget to tell. Help me. Even as I write these words, I'm planning to rise from the chair as soon as I finish this sentence.
Thanks, Lizzie. I'm really affected this morning by this last line. Even as I write these words, I'm planning to rise from the chair as soon as I finish the sentence. It struck me that there are lots of ways of reading this. And one way is in a very obviously theological way. This could be a person in conversation with God, and that's a perfect way of reading this. But it's not really the way I want to talk about it, because where I'm starting with this is that word I'm thinking about in the Jewish tradition, which I know so well, Lizzie, is that there isn't a word God, there's actually the word that's there is actually a really word for breath or being or something like that. And that's true in lots and lots and lots, whatever your background, whether you come from a religious background or something else, the sense that we might have that there is something that we long to be in deep, intimate relationship with that somehow continually eludes us. We long for it and we find it really, really hard to stay with it. And whether you call it God or breath or life or presence, or as we've been talking about often here, essential self, which is the something of us that is both personal and beyond us. Isn't it amazing how much we long for it and how much we simultaneously want to run? How much we benefit from finding our way to return to this central something that is the source point of all aliveness, that predates us, that was here before we began, that maybe is us before we began. And then my first point of appreciation for Marie Howe's words is, oh my goodness, all the ways I'm on the run from it all the time. Everything's calling for my attention, always. The drugstore, the beauty products, the luggage I need to buy for the trip, the falling piles of paper, the garbage trucks outside. Why do I flee from you? And I find it very tender, actually, to realize and to be reminded by these words that both of these are true, that there is, I know, because I have times in my life when I can really feel, and in fact now, sitting with you, taking you in, slowing down, being in conversation with someone I really care about, who's really important to me, paying attention, slowing my breath. I can feel myself in intimate contact with something that is really important to be in contact with. And then I'm full of protective parts of me that are terribly worried that if I attend here, I'm not going to be a proper person. My life will fall apart. What will people think of me? My self-image will destruct. And isn't that an extraordinary thing to be pulled between these two places? And maybe the thing to say is the two places both have their enormous value. And yet, I mean, I'm really pleased that, like Marie, there are parts of me that know how to buy the luggage and to deal with the falling piles of paper. And so there's something about being human is to be stretched between these two ends. And yet it's a really tricky place to live.
So if anybody's watching the video, you can see I've had a big smile on my face the whole time of receiving this poem and listening to you, Justin. And I think it's a kind of, sometimes when you listen to a really excellent comedian who kind of brings something that you thought was a secret and says it publicly, feels a little bit like that. And I think I carry quite a lot of, what is it? Like, I don't know, maybe denial about this. But honestly, this is such a big dimension of my life is, as you say, the pull between the places. And by the way, anything can be like my falling piles of paper can be the you that I want to be in contact with, if you know what I mean. Like, it doesn't have to be something spiritual or breath related. It can just be the thing that would be good for me, which would be to do some filing or to organize something or to get ready ahead of time or something. And then there's competition. There's the competing parts. There's the thing that would be really as you say, life-giving, nourishing, and filling up for me, which many times I might choose. And then when I do choose that, the other parts are still wrangling around saying, oh yeah, but you got to do this, or I'm planning something, and I'm sitting and dedicating myself to some intention, or my breath, or receiving my life, or all of the really important themes that I want to cultivate. And I will find myself in a cafe on a beach in Cornwall ordering an ice cream for the children or something. And I'm like, how did I get there? I don't even know how I got there. And so I have a very excellently divergent inner world that takes me in all kinds of places that's contrary to the intention that I have right now. And this kind of stillness, Justin, and I agree, I feel it here too. Even in the saying of it, that's why I'm so appreciative of Marie Howe writing this, is even in the saying of it and bringing it to the light of our conversation and between us both, there's an honesty that makes me laugh and that's liberating. Because to have that named, that thing named, that dynamic named, I can find the humor in it. I can find the funniness of me thinking of an ice cream when I should be meditating, or like doing everything but the thing that needs to be done that I know will make my life easier this week. And I'm feeling kindness towards that in this conversation, in the presence of you and this wonderful reflection from Marie. And somehow the thing I think that Marie's speaking of does just hold all of that. Like, it's not discriminating between, yes, well, you should be more like that one that is really still, and you shouldn't be the ice cream thinker. No. It's kind of going, oh, look, you're the ice cream thinker and the still one. You're the reflector and the busy one. You're the wanderer and the decision maker. And there's something all encompassing about this one, that's this part, this being, this breath that is what we flee from. And I think that's why we long for it, because it is the kind of all embracing acceptance, kindness, lightness, humor that we long to be welcomed by, that we long to be held by, that we long to bring to all of the divergence inside of us, all of the bonkersness and all of the loveliness and all of the neurosis and all of the catastrophizing and all of the planning and all of the miserableness and all of the joy. This longing, in as I see it, is the longing for all of that to be held in this kind of kindness and this kind of presence, and yes, and that's what it is to be human, feeling.
I had a moment of real discovery when you said, it was all new to me actually, when you said it could be the filing that you're longing to be in but that you're running from. And I do want to use this language of the divine and the sacred for the moment, because I think for me it's very resonant. Maybe for other people it will be too. That if I take what Marie is saying as an inquiry into how much we long for the sacred and how much we run from it, both at the same time, and then I take what you said and say, well, all of it can be sacred. It really depends upon how we come at it. Like, if I'm doing the filing, can I be doing the filing? And if I'm talking to you, Lizzie, and paying attention to you, can I be paying attention to you? And there's something in us that really longs for that, really longs for, you said kindness, and there's a kindness there. And I think I think we long for presence. I think we long to be present, but we're also frightened of it. And a few weeks ago, we read a source by Norman Fisher, which talked about intimacy. It was a Buddhist source that talked about enlightenment being the same as intimacy with life. And in a way, you could say that that's what we long for. When Marie Howe writes, "Every day I want to speak with you, but something more important takes my attention." It's our longing for contact with this one very precious life that we're in. And then there are parts of us that are trying very, very hard to protect us from that contact. And I'm really curious about that dynamic. And I appreciate that there's something very important about naming it simply as just what it is to be a human, and as you're not doing, as Marie isn't doing, then sort of chastising ourselves for it in some way. And it's true that the thought that comes to me is that the risk of real intimate contact with our lives, or with the deeper something that is us, or with existence itself, or with another person, or with the filing, to really let ourselves be here for it, the risk is that it will affect us. I might be healed by it, but I might be hurt by it. If I really allow myself to pay attention to who and what is here, and if I treat everything as potentially a source of sacredness, even the filing, then whether I'm trying to sort out my office, or whether I'm sitting quietly in a meditation practice or in prayer, or whatever it is, there are going to be parts of me, wonderful parts of me, that are trying very, very hard to protect me from harm. And I think in me, they're the ones that want to have me not be here. They want to have me, they're the parts of me that I really identify. Even as I write these words, I'm planning to rise from the chair as soon as I finish this. Already taking care of how do I stay safe. And there's a sort of connection between the illusion of safety and the reality of intimacy with another person, with a tree, with a life, with my family, with, or even with you named it as the just thought, your distracting thought, but actually when I'm in the queue for an ice cream with the children by the sea, being here for that, like actually being here for that. And there's a cost to it. So on the one hand, just recognizing it as an ordinary and itself very sacred part of being human, that we have this complexity. I am glad that Marie Howe writes, "My days and nights pour through me like complaints and become a story I forgot to tell." That the cost to it is that in leaning, if I think you called it, we've been calling it a polarity of sorts, a competing commitment between presence and intimacy with what is, and with ourselves and with others and with life on the one hand, and all of the pull into protection, which becomes busyness and avoidance and whatever, which also has its merits. But if we lean too far, I think many of us live in a culture which pulls us to lean too far into the busyness distraction end. How easy it is for our lives to become a story we're forgetting to tell, that we become passengers in our own lives rather than authors and storytellers, or even participants in our own life telling the story of what happened. And that's the price we pay, and that's why the longing is really worth paying attention to and not ignoring, because we could discredit the longing as if the longing itself, which is a source of the longing for what seems so far sometimes, that longing reminds us that there is a return to something that really matters in this very precious, very brief life that we have.
It's really reminding me, Justin, of this feeling I often have of like everything slipping through my fingers. Like I can't hold on to anything. And I think I shimmy between these spaces of kind of, I don't know, like sometimes having faith that presence and stillness will like let me hold on. It never works. So I think I bounce between this kind of, oh, well, if that doesn't work, then what am I supposed to do anyway? You know, this is all so ridiculously precious. And it's all leaving me all the time. But of course it runs through me, just like the days and nights pouring through me like complaints. It's all, my life is running through me. I am here. And there's such a kind of, I have all the protective parts too, Justin, of, well, I'm in so deep that loving like I love is just dangerous. Everything's at stake all the time, given the way that I love. And I don't know how to hold that. It's so big. It feels, life itself and all of its preciousness feels so big. You know, we have this thing, Justin, where we talk about breathing ourselves a little bit bigger. And really only these little tiny things bring any relief to my system, because the parts of me that are protective, like you say, are also, they're also filled with love. You know, they're also, so there's just so much. And I think the part of me that wants to run, or the parts that want to run, are the parts that I'm not sure can handle how big and beautiful life is, and how much preciousness there is, and on the other side, how much devastation and horror there is. I don't feel big enough to hold either the beauty or the horror sometimes. And so the practices that we have of breathing ourselves bigger and being with one another and settling and finding some stillness, this thing that we long for, it actually is a lot more comfortable, if you know what I mean. Like a lot, I can accept and I can be with a lot more when I do that. So I can feel the intelligence of the longing as well, because I think the intelligent parts of me know that if I'm stiller and bigger and wider and more expansive, it's much more probable that I can take right action or do something helpful, rather than spin out and just be kind of ricocheting around because I'm afraid. And so that longing, there's a part of the conversation about accepting that that's just the kind of the human condition. But I'm also appreciating the intentionality of acknowledging what our longings are for this kind of presence and stillness and holding and bigness, so that we can actually contribute, that we can actually be loving, instead of bouncing about like a ping pong ball, in my case, not really doing anything helpful at all, because I'm just too afraid to settle into the moment and to see clearly, honestly, either how precious or how devastating or how grief filled or how wonderful or how joyful or how simple something is.
Yes, I'm really with you. That maybe maybe the longing that we have, that Marie Howe expresses so beautifully here, and what we're called to be as humans are the same thing, which is ones who find a way to include more and more of it, to hold more and more of the joys and the wonder and the radical amazement that there is anything and that we can be alive, as well as the horrors and the sufferings and the losses. And partly the horrors and the sufferings and losses of the world, Lizzie, but I also mean our own ones. Like any life that we live, if we love fully, or really allow ourselves to love a person or some people, or the experience of being alive, or a project we're dedicated to, or there are going to be really profound losses and pain in all of them. And so partly it's about the experience of living, but partly it's also about who we get to be and how we get to be, who we get to be for one another. And you use this word loving, which I think is a really excellent word for this. Can we can we recognize this dynamic that Marie Howe talks about, and in recognizing it, can we play a part in it rather than just being subject to it, so that when it really counts, and it really counts when our presence has an impact on other people, when we're parenting or partnering or working or creating or just standing in the queue in the supermarket, that our presence has a chance to be one that is of benefit to others around us, that we're not just spinning out into our own fear and reactivity. I think that's what's at stake. And Marie Howe's words are so beautiful because they recognize all of that reactivity is just very ordinary, and also that there is something really precious for us to pay attention to. Maybe it's important because a lot of the world right now seems to keep on ask us to not return to that. There are lots and lots of reasons, commercial, political, whatever, not to return to the sacred center of ourselves that risks loving and being present and then responding with exquisite care, whatever that means. Could be truthfulness, could be gentleness, could be forcefulness, could be, different circumstances call for different things. So it's a reminder of what it takes for us to show up in our lives. And I am really touched by your reminder that sometimes it's small things, not big things. You don't need to go and sit on a mountaintop alone for 30 days. It might be remembering to breathe ourselves a bit bigger right in the midst of something. Or it might be, as Marie Howe writes, help me. Just even acknowledging that to ourselves or to someone else, help me. Because even as I write these words, I'm planning to rise from the chair as soon as I finish this. Well, we've reached the time that we know to stop. So I want to say thank you to you, Lizzie, for keeping on showing up for this very precious, very sacred conversation. I know I learn so much every time from doing this, and that's the spirit of this. And thank you to all of you who are with us and around us, and a reminder that you're very welcome to tell other people about this if you think it would be of benefit to them. And also a reminder that if you want to engage with us and with others in this kind of inquiry and learning, Turning Towards Life Live is coming. And you can find out about it on the website. And being well, we will be back again, same place, same way, next week.
Thanks, Justin. Bye, everyone.